Welcome to the Business Behind Fundraising podcast, where you'll discover how to raise the kind of money your big vision requires without adding more events, appeals, or grant applications. Learn how to stop blocking overall revenue growth and start attracting investment-level donors with Sherry Quam Taylor.
Hey guys, this is Sherry Quam Taylor, and you are listening to the Business Behind Fundraising podcast. And I'm really excited to have this conversation and have you guys listen into this conversation today with my friend, Erin McPartlin. I think you guys are going to like to hear Erin's story because we met. She was my client. She was an executive director for, can I say decades? I might say decades for an Okay, good. I can say that for an organization. And then, like many of my clients, I'm like, oh, wait, I like her. I'm going to make her my friend. So I'm happy to call her my friend. And we're both girl moms. And so she's my brunch therapy every once in a while on that front. And now Erin has made that shift that I talked to a lot of EDs, CEOs about into her own consultancy. So you're going to hear Erin's story of her journey, into nonprofit, her success leading an organization here in Chicago, and then the pivot that she's made, and just the amazing work that she's doing, and really how that's just been a natural progression. So, Erin, thanks for letting me have this conversation with you today.
Hi, Sherry. Thanks for having me. This is really exciting.
Good. We're kind of official today here, having you on the podcast. So I tried to do a wide brushstroke, but obviously it means more coming from you. Talk to me about just your journey. Let's first talk about our work together and how that evolved, and then maybe through that time how you've really shifted into this consultancy. But I'd love to just hear about Tutoring Chicago. How you landed in that position and just what the last couple decades have looked like for you.
So we want to go way, way back then, Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you were 16. Yeah. So when you were 16, you got your driver's license.
So I came through education. I was a teacher and kind of looking, as many teachers do, like, am I doing this for the rest of my life? And a friend had reached out and said, hey, there's this organization. And at the time, it's called the Cabrini Green Tutoring Program. And I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I would love to help students from mainly the Cabrini area at that time match with adult volunteers around the city and really set them on, a trajectory for mentoring and for success and for support. So that's the origin story. But as that evolved, and that was way, way back, I started right before 9/11. So quite some time ago. About 5 years later, I kind of assumed the role of the executive director. And years after that, the organization was really growing and we evolved. We were expanding around the city, helping students all over outside of just one neighborhood. And I found that I was the Cabrini Green Tutoring Program, like in Bronzeville or in Logan Square. And I got a real sense of awkward identity. Like I was trying to explain who we were and what we did. And people are looking at me like, why are you here? What are you doing? And it's a bit of a moment of identity crisis, I think. And a few years later, we rebranded as Tutoring Chicago. We say what we do. It's very clear. And we've been expanding around the city. So we deliver the power of education through one-to-one tutoring. And after, as you referenced, after now 22 years,
wow.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I've handed that off to a new executive director, and I'm kind of working in the background to help support their work still and advising the best that I can. And now I'm in a position where I get to help other organizations and other executive directors and leaders.
Awesome. And I feel like what a listening ear you can be for EDs who I think speak this one specific language, and to really understand what they're going through is so important.
It's lonely. It's really lonely. And you're in this position. And, as I mentioned, I came from education, and I know that you and I talk about this a lot of times. It's not that often that we kind of come from like, oh, I'm going to major in nonprofit management as an 18-year-old. Usually we evolve through it into some way, and we end up there for the passion or the work that we want to do. And we start realizing we're good at this, and we find ourselves like, oh, now I'm in this chair.
Yes.
And okay, what do I need to do? And that's, you talk about the business behind fundraising, and we've talked a lot about, the business of nonprofits and how you have to lead as a business. And sometimes you find yourself just really scrambling. You don't have the support, and you're the go-to person.
For everything. For
absolutely everything. Yes.
Yeah. It's for a time and season, of course. Okay. So here's what I did before I hopped on today. I went and I put your email address, your ED email address in my inbox, and I went end, because I was trying to figure out when in the world we started working together.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you were my last meeting of 2017. Is that crazy?
Knocked on my door, and we were having like a holiday celebration. I'm like,
yeah.
Hey, Sherry, got a lot going on. I have kids getting gifts and all sorts of things, but come on in. Let's talk about fundraising. And I'm sure my voice was up there at that time because I was doing that. Let's do everything. I think it's you are a C-suite in one person.
Yes.
But
great way to describe it.
You and I met, and it was like, I think we had a phone call. We were connected by someone else, and it was like, click. Okay.
Here we go.
We can do this.
So paint the picture, because even at that time, you had already been with the organization a long time, but paint the picture of what, when you reached out, what was that challenge that you were facing, or what was that next level you were trying to get through and through our work? Well,
and we were, in this massive growth trajectory, which I'd love to talk about a little bit more as we go through this conversation. But when you and I first connected, I was just at this point where I'm like, okay, I know where we have to go. I know the steps. I know what we're doing. But I was in this phase of I needed to build the infrastructure to support that. And fortunately, I had a lot of, the green light to do all of that from a funding and a board perspective and a strategic planning perspective. But we needed to put more into it and more, like I say, build the layers. And we needed to do it really thoughtfully and intentionally. And so I reached out to you about help me build the development department. Because we were kind of like a department of like 1.5, and we were doing great things, but we needed those layers. And I remember that you came to my house and we sat at my dining room table and we just talked, and I just expressed everything, and you laid it out. You grabbed a sheet of paper and you're like, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start here and then here and then here. And I was like, that was my aha. Like, oh, now I can see it. I can visualize it.
I love it. And I love that those were the years when I used to go sit at people's dining room tables. Now I don't leave my desk. That's so funny. And I do remember, Erin, I do feel like, I see a gazillion strategic plans or sit in board meetings where a strategic plan is being presented or created. And I do remember being really impressed with you of how you were really managing up to your board and the respect that they had for you really to drive that. But also I felt like that's when I started describing you as this 360 leader of gosh, she really sees not only all the departments, but all the tricky angles, what's around the corner, and how all of those actually, when you pull one, it pushes the other. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that's always such an important thing to attract investment level donors and to attract people, and not only donors, but also board members who say, wow, they get this, and that feels like a good investment that I could give my money to and feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah, when you said that to me, that was pivotal. It really was. Mm-hmm. You talked about managing up, which is a term I honestly hadn't really thought of very much at that point. And then you talked about the 360 piece of, you pull one side, that one string here, and you know how it affects this other side. And I had never thought about that before. But when you described it to me, I really was like, well, doesn't everyone do that? Like, how do you do this?
No.
How do you do this without having that 360 lens? And you named it. And I've kind of I've leveraged that truthfully.
Good, as you should.
People needed help with this. I didn't, and that's been really great, and just a way for me to think about how I can help other leaders.
It isn't everybody, and have you taken the Enneagram?
I haven't, no, but I have.
Okay,
I'm very familiar, and maybe I'm a little hesitant to do my own.
I thought I was the last person in the world to take the Enneagram.
No.
I'm a 6. Now I'm like getting into the Enneagram. But part of being a 6 is so that I'm literally going, I wonder if Erin is a 6. It's like being able to look out ahead and then saying, oh, if that worst case scenario happens, I'm going to put 16 blocks in the way so that the worst case scenario doesn't happen. And I feel like it's a blessing and a curse because I'm constantly thinking, oh my gosh, this disaster is going to happen. So I'm going to do these 62 things at the same time. But I feel like that makes a great leader and project manager because we're always troubleshooting ahead so that the bad doesn't happen. Yeah. I feel like that's what you and I.
Another pivotal moment here, Sherry. Thank you, because you just labeled this for me because that's spot on. Thank you. And I was.
You're a 6. You're a 6, I guess.
I don't even have to take the test. But I think some of that also just comes from that those early years of my career. I was a 5th grade teacher. If you don't plan and prepare and think about, well, what happens if this happens, and then this happens, and not in a doomsday type of way, just you have to think 3 steps ahead to be able to, cut that off or anticipate what's going to happen. And I think, that is a big piece of this strategic planning. But also more importantly to that, and maybe that's part of our Enneagram curse, is like also recognizing that we don't have a crystal ball. And we can't say exactly how that's going to look in 3 years. And I know personally you and I are like, oh no, especially parent
stress.
But we don't have that crystal ball. Okay, so what is it that we can, I'll use the word control or plan for, that is going to make all of those pieces from a 360 lens come together well, but also anticipate what may go wrong and be malleable.
Do you feel like that really set you guys up for success during the pandemic?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
You rocked it.
I'm going to go back just a little bit, and if I can tell a little story, if you'll indulge me for a second here. But 22 years, but we did strategic plans every 3 years, probably. And so I've been through a lot of them. Some we did ourselves. Some we just, went to a restaurant and kind of put some stuff on a piece of paper. And there was one year we did bring in a firm, and they were lovely people. Still love them as people. But they, we get in these meetings and I got that $1 million question, the $1 million, what would you do with $1 million? And I'm like, I'm a one woman show over here. I don't know. I was like, I don't even know what it is we do anymore. I'm just, I was in that mode, and they were all asking me. The board couldn't answer it. No, it was all coming down to me. And so we still worked with them. We were going through the process. We were kind of checking off the traditional strategic plan trajectory, and we were having our board retreat, and all the great people were at the table, the staff and some extra leaders, and it was a wonderful group of people that were assembled. And we were at a point where, well, 2 things. We spent hours wordsmithing, which is in and of itself exhausting and unnecessary. And the other was that we were arguing whether or not we should serve 625 kids or 660 kids in 3 years. Oh. I am not exaggerating. This was that conversation, but it was all just these high level goals, but there was nothing underneath it. And so I was sitting next to my board chair, and we were all reaching kind of a pretty frustrated point in this day that was supposed to bring everyone together. And I kind of whispered to him, and I said, we can't afford any of this. And he said, I know. And we sort of resigned ourselves to the process. Well, it was being done to us, not with us. And, Sherry, that we went through the process. We finished it. It was like no one was excited. It was a plan that didn't have enough implementation or infrastructure around it. It ignored fundraising altogether. And we just had this arbitrary number and goal that no one really even understood why or what we were doing. And what happened was a few months later, the ink was barely dry on the strategic plan. I was sitting with one of our big funders, and he's asking me, talk to me about your growth. What's your appetite? And I was like, well, I had this strategic plan, and it says we're going to get to, 660 students in the next 3 years. And he was like, I don't want to hear about that. What's your appetite? How hungry are you? And I definitely was like, well, I don't. But he saw something in me and in the organization, and he valued our work so much. And he said, I tell you what, absolutely paraphrasing here, but tell you what, come back to me in 10 days and put together a 5-year growth plan. And I'm going to fund it. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And I took that strategic plan. I never looked at it again, Sherry. I took the work that we had done was valuable. The thoughts, wait, I can't do this because of this. So the work we did, the process was important. But I took that, I put together it was on 2 pages. It was a 5-year plan. We needed this, and I knew every year what we were going to need: staffing, infrastructure, the database, all of the important things that we needed to be that big organization in 5 years. And that was the plan we worked off of. Everyone knew what the goals were. Everyone knew, and we were all on board with how to support it. And I think a few years later, when I started working with you and everything, I realized this just has to be flexible and malleable. We can't say exactly what we're going to be in the next few years. And when we did a plan, when you and I did this plan together, I don't know why. I just really felt we needed to be flexible, and we needed these like strategic imperatives that guided us with our values, guided us with our identity. We know who we were. We know where we were going. We know what we stood for. And in one of the slides, I'm sure you don't remember this, but in one of the slides, I actually had a willow tree and some corny quote about, our foundation and roots are strong, but we are a willow tree and we can bend and
we blow in the breeze. Yeah.
And then a few years later, COVID, right? And that strategic plan worked. It took us through. We know who we were, what we stood for. We'd been testing a few things pilot-wise, and we were able to easily adapt. Well, not easily. No one easily adapted.
Yeah, it was challenging, but you did it.
We did.
And you did it quick. You did it quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like, so people usually come to me with a strategic plan that maybe it was kind of like your first one. Like, it's safe, it's conservative, and we're not excited about it. And so like our funding is not being propelled. Or they've come to me with like the big visionary, yes, we want to triple or whatever it is, but we don't know how to fund it. And I'm kind of hearing you had both, maybe, the conservative, or maybe what we're told in nonprofit we should do. And then someone gave you a pass to say, okay, now think big. I mean, of course it was tied to dollars, but do you think you would have been able to make that shift if it wasn't tied to a check in thinking?
Yeah. No, that's a great, first of all, I don't think I would have made that shift had he not encouraged me and forced me to do it. So I think if there's any, donors listening to right now, ask those questions. And you may not get the answer right away because it does take us back. Like, oh, well, I've got this plan that I'm following. But when you ask us, and when you're, I know you always talk about it, these investment level, unrestricted gifts and funding things like infrastructure, marketing, advertising, that is the transitional, pivotal, that is the funding that allows us the capacity to grow and to do the things that we need to do. So, I'm not sure, Sherry. I think maybe we would have got there, but we needed those conversations, and I needed to be challenged to think about it. And I think we saw that I was able to do it, and respected the work that we did, and respected how I ran the organization in a way that he trusted us.
Yes, that's it. And you had to know him. You had to be in relationship with him for him to see that in you.
Yes. And we had been.
So good. Okay. So let's talk how this shift has been kind of into the consultancy. Share as much as you want about kind of making that leap that many people have done, including myself. Talk to me about that shift and just how you're feeling in this kind of early part of your consultancy, even though you've you're a natural consultant and you've done some of this over the years.
Yeah, it's very exciting because it's just at this point where I feel like it's incredibly rewarding. And, and I think, when I really look back, I think probably in the last year or so, I've maybe even shifted my own work as an ED to more of an advisory role as I've, allowed a lot of my key leaders to elevate themselves. And I've been coaching them through that. And so that I found is also really rewarding. And I think just meeting with other industry leaders and, colleagues in this, as we talk through things like, I can help you with that. I want to help you with that. Let's do this together. And, when you and I first met, and there's this idea of the thought partner. And I know that's overused. Maybe I'm only overusing it, but it's so true. It's so valuable that you need that person to just say, oh, try this, or let me nudge you just a little bit. And even holding each other accountable in this, because as EDs or leaders in this, there's always going to be something else in your way. There is always. And so having it on a schedule, saying, okay, I'm meeting with Erin on this day. I've got to do my homework or be prepared. You would, years ago, you would kind of laid out some roadmaps for us. And I've been able to do that now with clients and just say, okay, this is where we're headed. I'm also a very pragmatic and practical person. We were joking the other day,
yes, I support practicality.
Yes. And so I do lead from that, and I guide from that, and say, okay, well, let me give you what not going to give you the fluff. I'm going to give you what you need, because what I would need in your shoes, maybe what I needed a few years ago, what I would need if I was still doing that role, and that's where I want to be.
I love that. So talk to me about how you're approaching strategic planning for your clients, how you've really taken and honed what worked for you over the years, maybe what didn't work for you, or what you saw not working for you. Talk to me about your approach to strategic planning. And I'd love to hear about, I see every kind. I do see the 40-page bound document. I see the one-pager. I see the Excel task-oriented one. I see the very visionary one. Tell me what your approach is and how you're taking people on this journey.
So thank you for asking. So this is where I get all excited. Can you see?
Good.
Lifting in my chair.
Sitting up in your chair.
So through this process, all these things I talked about, what worked and what didn't, my approach is to help the leaders create a strategic framework. And now it is a strategic plan. You're going to have this plan, but it is a framework from which to make decisions over the next few years. And so what I don't do, and I love going into this I think it's so important to say what you don't do and who are we not and all of these things, because you really hone in on what you do. And this is, my plans are in a way not going to be so incredibly prescriptive that you're going to be so tied to, we all love SMART goals. SMART objectives are important. But when you're trying to write a SMART objective for yourself, for your organization in 3 years, this is where people are like, I don't even know. I'm just writing stuff down so I can be finished with this project because we've been working on this for 6 months and I'm ready to be done. And how is that? That's where we get the proverbial strategic plan that sits on a shelf. And as soon as you get a little off course, what happens? Then you're so off course, you can't do the next thing and the next thing because they're all contingent. And when you're so off course, now you're unmotivated. You feel like, well, that plan doesn't even apply to us anymore. And so many people that I've spoken with, and I say, okay, what's the state of your plan now? When's the last time you did one? How are you? 9 times out of 10, well, we did a plan before COVID.
Yep.
So that plan doesn't matter anymore. So
it's obsolete.
Plan, And so let's start. And so to build this strategic framework, we have to look at a lot of things. And the main thing I try to start with is identity. And that goes back to my work in the Cabrini Green tutoring program days. And I knew something was off, or I didn't know how to verbalize and articulate what we stood for, or why we were even in this neighborhood, what we were here for. And so when you start with that identity piece, you break down a lot of different layers and barriers, and you bring in board members and you talk about this. And sometimes it's Well, we say that because our founder said that in 1997, and it's important. It's like, it is, but maybe the language has changed. Maybe the verb you're using means a whole lot more, and not wordsmithing, but let's break down what that means. And sometimes we pack a lot of things into our identity statements. So we go through identity, but one of the main, components of that identity work are your values. And if you have to be able to identify your values, and sometimes you can do it on the front end, sometimes we do it throughout, and sometimes when we get to the end, we're like, you know what? We need to go back and address values again, because those are going to guide you through those difficult decisions, through when you've got your guiding principles, you know what you stand for, you know where you're going. Those are what guide you the most, more than any SMART ever will.
Erin, would you speak to something that I see often is a plan that has a lot of, it's probably the opposite of the framework you're describing, but a lot of day-to-day types of decisions within the strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And I find that then decisions don't always get made because it's like the ED has not been empowered to be that day-to-day decision maker. And then it's like, well, I got to ask my board. Board says no. So I do feel like I oftentimes see, the board kind of holding too many of those day-to-day decisions. And I feel like I watched you do a good job of this, and for your board to really give you freedom and saying, well, yeah, here's the strategic plan, here's the vision. So tell us what you need and tell us what decisions you're making. Of course, you weren't being crazy with whatever, but could you talk a little bit about how you see EDs using their strategic plan and having it empower them to really own, spend, grow, scale the business they're running without having to be handcuffed by their boards?
Oh, yeah, that might be another podcast.
It came out of my mouth. I was like, oh, that's a big one.
Well, and I think we've been doing a lot of, these little punny analogies about roadmaps and, all the people on the bus and who's the driver. And, the board needs to just make sure you're not driving off the cliff. And, that is one of their main responsibilities. And there's different ways that they can do that. But within strategic planning, this isn't just a staff thing. This isn't just a board thing. This is everyone together. And yes, you need a committee, you need planning to plan. We need all of those things. But when you do have each board member involved in the process in some way, so, I like to approach it from I call them buckets. And you've got your programming bucket, your operations, your governance bucket, your fundraising bucket. And I'm working with a group right now, and there are board members each board member is assigned to one of those buckets. And so that might be the area where they're focused on within governance. And so they're weighing in, but they have to see how it all ties together. And that's where we're bringing all of these pieces. They're all interrelated, interconnected. But the board's job too is also to set the leaders up for success. And that is from make sure that it's well funded, make sure that we're managing risk, watching for all of that those driving off the cliff pieces. But we do that through this plan. And I think two other things that you were referencing there is just the day-to-day piece. And now your strategic plan, again, it's a framework. It is your guide for everything decision making, but it's not your day-to-day. And if you need that, you probably don't need a strategic plan. What I incorporate into my plans as far as implementation are two things that I think are real important. And the first one is immediate needs, because too often we do the yeah buts. Well, I'd love to do that. Yeah, but my CRM is messy right now. I want to do that, but I don't have an operations director yet. Well, okay, so let's address all of those things right now. And so within the strategic plan, I actually have a section called immediate needs. And these are the things we're going to do over the next 3 to 6 months, because if we don't do them, we can't do the rest.
Right. And Don't let it be a hurdle you can't jump over.
Yeah. And so
that's good.
If you lay it all out, then people say like, oh yeah, I can handle that right away. Oh, we're going to address that now. Oh, good. I've been talking about that for a few years. And then you can get into the more, existential and exciting things about where you're growing. And the other piece to that, Sherry, then is annual planning. And each section within your strategic plan needs to have annual planning built into it. That's your day-to-day. So our strategic plan is not our budget. It's not our funding, revenue plan. It doesn't include our program plan, our enrollment, our growth. Those are the pieces that hold all of that together, and they all support that. And you address that on an annual basis.
Yes, I love that. So when the phone rings, Erin, I'm just thinking, like, who is that leader? Like, what is their problem? And maybe even like who you love working with.
Yeah.
Who is that leader that you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this in my sleep? Like if someone's listening saying, I need to link arms with Erin McPartlin, who's been in my shoes, like describe maybe what your clients are often struggling with and just say like, we are a perfect fit client in essence.
Well, I think, first off, just like if this is resonating with you at all, then you're probably the right fit.
Yeah, good point.
Let's start with that. And I think there's also size here too. I mean, I also recognize that sometimes it's just that the organization might have, a lot of different moving parts and a lot of players and pieces. And perhaps I may not be the right fit for you from designing your strategic plan with you. However, you may also sometimes when we go with these bigger firms, they're great, but we've got a lot of different people. And what it falls back to in project management is often the ED. And the ED is pulling in his or her board and doing all these things. So you might even need someone, like me to just kind of say, let me help you with this bigger piece and working through this and getting all the right people together. So that is something I can do on a bigger scale. But I think right in this sweet spot of, I know some things are off. I want to plan together. We haven't had one in a little while, or maybe our current plan isn't working for us. I had a client about a year ago say, I'll be honest, I don't even understand our strategic plan. It's like, okay, let's start from there. And so it doesn't necessarily even have to be like, well, it's been 3 years. We're up in the cycle, because this does take time. And we want to work together. I want to come in and talk to you, and we'll do a series of half days or something where we get to know each other. And it doesn't need to be like, oh, I've got everyone assigned. I know we're going to start strategic planning. We've got it ready to go. And, and we're just looking for, a firm or a facilitator. If you've got that, fantastic. Let's work together. But you don't have to have those things ready to go. Because we can get there. And a wonderful group that I'm working with right now, we're just about finishing up their strategic plan. It's very exciting. And we've been working together for a year, not on the plan, but on some other things related to their infrastructure and some board development. And then we got to a point where it's like, okay, now we're ready for this strategic plan.
Right. So as you're, building your client list, talk to me a little bit more about results. And I'm guessing it's really this, like I'm hearing like EDs go, oh, okay, gosh, if I had consensus, if I had, holistic buy-in from staff, leadership, board, is that really the goal that I mean, it kind of makes sense that it's consensus, but what else do you feel like if we're looking and we're all happy sitting at the table that, gosh, the strategic plan is doing this for us?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's having that roadmap. It's also having something to lean into. And I think too often we start throwing things all out at, meetings like, well, what if we did this? Or maybe we should try this. And it's like, well, that's great. I like your idea. I love your passion, but that's where the mission creep comes in. And that's where we get frustrated because we feel either, oh, someone's taking me off, or I'm not comfortable going, or I want to be respectful, but that's not what we're doing right now, or we don't have the funding for that. So I think the plan itself is absolutely essential. You want to have this plan. You want this, again, this malleable framework from which to really rely on and lean into. But I can't express enough about the process. And just through that process, it's messy. There's times that I've been telling this group, like, okay, we're in the messy phase. I know it's messy. It makes me uncomfortable too, but we have to have these conversations. And I'll use an example. Tutoring Chicago is an organization that matches tutors and students, and it's one-to-one. And we have been one-to-one for nearly 60 years. But every few years, we have the conversation again about one-to-one. And it's not that anyone thinks we should actually not be one-to-one, but we have to say, let's lay it all out there. Should we still be one-to-one? Why are we one-to-one? What is all of that? And, okay, I'm going to pull up this little quote because I want to, and I'm going to read it to you. And I apologize for reading, but I don't have this memorized yet. But this is one of the slides that I use in one of the first meetings, usually in a board retreat. And I stole it from this man who is the head of brand experience, and he's the lead igniter for Simon Inc. I mean, right, lead igniter. That's quite a term. So it maybe you've heard this before. It's called the golden circle. Okay, the golden circle is the sum of who we are. It is our why, which is our purpose, our hows, which is our values, our strengths and action, our what's. It's all that tangible stuff we offer, we do. They all point to who we are. And our goal as an organization and through this process is to have clarity of our why, discipline in our hows, and consistency of what. And when we have those three ingredients, we are authentic, we say and do things we actually believe. And when we do that, people know who we are, what we stand for. We can go out and talk to those investment level donors. We can go into the community. We can market ourselves. We can get the volunteers and rally people towards our cause because we have all of those components. And that's part of this process.
I love it. As you were saying it, I was like, and donors love that.
Yes, I knew you were.
That's my lens laying on top of that.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Erin, how can people find you?
Erin McPartlin Consulting.com. Pretty straightforward, just like Tutoring Chicago. It's like pragmatic and direct. Yeah. And LinkedIn, of course, LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn.
McPartlin.
Yes.
Yes.
Hop over on LinkedIn. Amazing. Thanks for the conversation. I always learn a lot about the strategic planning process from you. And it's just so fun just watching you evolve your career and all of these good things. So I'm excited to be referring you to my clients.
Thank you, Sherry. It's always nice to talk to you. And yeah, let's do this every week. I could talk about this
okay. Every day. Maybe we'll start one. It'll come out called the Golden Circle.
I love it. I might have to give some credit there to Simon Sinek.
We might be in trouble if we do that. But
we might.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Erin.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Business Behind Fundraising podcast. Tune in weekly, and you'll get seriously good at fully funding your organization's big vision year after year. Yes, even your overhead. Visit www.quamtaylor.com. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.